Journal. Zimmerman House. Church and Druckers. Town Commons, Central Town. Drucker House. Martin Bauer at Mill, Our Lady of the Labyrinth. Meadow. Forest. Meadow. Forest. Smokey's home. Meadow. Smokey's home. Forest. Smokey. Smokey says, oh, hello, Master Mailer. You're looking. Player says, thank you, Smokey. How are you? Smokey says, I'm well enough, I guess. Vaxlov went his way a few years ago, which I suppose was bound to happen. I miss the company sometimes, but now there's no one to keep me from my gossip. No one to tell it to, either. Option 1 of 3, have I missed much? Option 2 of 3, maybe you should take it to confession, instead. Option 3 of 3, I am always partial to a few new tidbits of information. Do tell, Smokey. Option 2 of 3, maybe you should take it. Smokey says, ha. Father Thomas doesn't have the stomach for what I know. Besides, he wouldn't reciprocate. Even if there are some particularly interesting tidbits. Option 1 of 2 of? Option 2 of 2, remain silent. Option 1 of 2 of? Smokey says, I did see another Imperial Reichspost courier ride from the Abbey a few days ago. Brother guy dropped the bag once. It looked heavy. The Abbey must be doing better than that abbot is letting on. Option 1 of 2, does that happen often? Option 2 of 2, I heard the Abbey was struggling with its funds. Option 1 of 2, does that happen often? Smokey says once or twice a month. Odd, with what the abbot has been saying about the Abbey struggling. Doesn't help that the abbot has tightened restrictions so close to St. John's Eve, too. The townsfolk get up to all sorts of mischief then. Option 1 of 2, oh no. I'm sure Father Gernot won't like that. Option 2 of 2, what sort of mischief? Smokey says, I'd wager you on and Cat will find some corner to play in, again. It's practically tradition at this point. Veronica and Brigida might go out for a midnight dip by the waterfall, too. They've been swimming out there for years. Now everyone's getting clever, trying to stay out from the abbot's eye. Option 1 of 2, he's a formidable man. Option 2 of 2, rightly so. He's an ass. Option 1 of 2, he's a formidable man. Player says, I didn't see you in the town commons during Otto's speech. Aren't you standing with the peasants? Smokey says, well, their cause doesn't really affect me, does it? I'm as worried as anyone about soldiers rushing through here, but the new taxes and restrictions don't bother me. I understand why they're upset, but I've been doing fine out here with less than they have. Nothing will change for me if they get their way. Option 1 of 3, you could still support them. Option 2 of 3, I see. Option 3 of 3, remain silent. Option 2 of 3, I see. Smokey says, oh well. Enough of that. Thanks for stopping by, Master Mailer. Player says, until later, Smokey. Smokey says, until then. Smokey. Forest. Forest. Fleck Meadow. Forest. Petchlaw. Forest. Meadow. Shrine of Waterfall. Shrine of Saint Sasha. Player says a carving of Saint Sasha. It looks quite old. Forest. Shrine of Saint Sasha, Waterfall. Old Salt Mine. Player says the gravestone Lucky left flowers at. 2 innocents. Waterfall. Old Salt Mine. Forest. Shrine of Saint Sasha. Meadow. With Father Gernot's new restrictions, the townsfolk can't even gather sticks without a fee. Meadow. Forest. Petchlaw, Mill. Golden Hand Inn, Church and Druckers. Meadow. Mill, Martin Bauer and Widow Kemperin, Drucker House. Central Town, Town Commons. Central Town. Steinauer House. Northtown, Alban Bakery. Town Commons. Alban Bakery. Central Town. Ulrich. Anna. Grit. Grit says God bless you, Andreas. I'm thankful you returned to Tassing after so long. We prayed so fondly for you after you left. Option 1 of 4 thank you, Grit. I've kept option 2 of 4 that's very kind of you. Option 3 of 4 you shouldn't have bothered. I've done well for myself, but Tassing. Option 4 of 4 I hope your prayers offset the abbots. He's not. Option 4 of 4 I hope your prayers offset the abbots. He's not as fond of me as the rest of Tassing. Option 1 of 4 thank you, Grit. I've kept Tassing in my prayers as well. Player says though it doesn't seem to have done much good. Grit says that's right. You were at Otto's speech earlier. Yes, Tassing's peasants are struggling, and now even we townsfolk are pinched by the abbot's new restrictions. I worry about my husband. He's getting too involved with the whole business. Option 1 of 3 what Gernot is doing in Tassing is wrong, and Otto is standing up to him. Option 2 of 3 you disagree with Ulrich. Option 3 of 3 you rewrite to be worried. Otto's protests look like the start of a revolt. Option 2 of 3 you disagree with Ulrich. Grit says yes, I do. I love my husband, but sometimes I worry that he focuses too intently on the details. He does not see that he may be both prudent and Christian. I pray that I am not acting selfishly, but the abbot's taxes have affected us, too. What about Anna's future? Ulrich has been offering credit to Peter for years, which I've accepted, but now. We can only bake so much bread a week before we go hungry ourselves. Can you talk to him, Andreas? Option 1 of 2 of course, Grit, but I can't promise I'll change his mind. Option 2 of 2 I'd rather not drive a wedge between you two. Option 1 of 2 of course, Grit says God bless you, Andreas. That's all I ask, Grit. Grit says God bless you, Andreas. Anna. Anna says hello, Master Andreas. Ulrich. Ulrich says God bless you, Andreas. Player says God bless you, Ulrich. How have you been? Ulrich says the Lord has been kinder to me than the peasants. These are difficult times for them, Andreas. They could use your help. Option 1 of 2 my help? How? Option 2 of 2 I don't really want to get involved. Option 1 of 2 my help? How? Ulrich says talk to the abbot. He may respect your opinion more than mine or the peasants. I would have hoped he could see that his behavior is not Christian, but something is clouding his judgment. Player says I am not exactly in Father Gernot's good graces. I doubt he would listen to anything I had to say. Ulrich says we must try, Andreas. These men are fair and hard-working, but they've been pushed down for too long. They're becoming desperate, and desperate men can forget their faith and turn to violence. Option 1 of 2 it won't really come to that, will it? Option 2 of 2 what if violence is the only language the abbot understands? Option 1 of 2 it won't really. Ulrich says perhaps not, but I don't want to take that chance, and there's no need to. There is no reason why the abbot cannot come to a good and Christian accord with the people of Tassing. Maybe it's only pride that's standing in the abbot's way. I hope that your counsel and God's light can touch his heart. Option 1 of 3 I don't know the abbot's business, but if he's doing this for money, I may not be able to persuade him. Option 2 of 3 I will do what I can, Ulrich. Option 3 of 3 I can't promise anything. Option 1 of 3 I don't. Ulrich says we can only hope that love for his fellow man holds greater sway in his heart than a desire for gold. Thank you and God bless you, Andreas. Ulrich. God bless you, Andreas. Central Town. Alban Bakery. Northtown. Steinauer House. Steinauer House. Central Town. Agnes. Agnes says hello, Andreas. Central Town, Lucky. Lucky. Lucky says Andreas. Back in Tassing, I see. Option 1 of 3 happy to see me. Option 2 of 3 I came to visit the grave of Brother Piero and pay my respects. Lucky says your friend. Didn't mind him, was a proper Christian. Option 1 of 2 he was a kind man. Option 2 of 2 unlike the others. Option 1 of 2 he was a kind man. Lucky says God rest his soul. Hope he gives us some peace too. Troubled times. Option 1 of 2 I assume you're referring to Otto's speech. Option 2 of 2 what do you mean? Lucky says you're the one who goes around the country, ain't that so? Peasant revolt all across the land. Folks here in Tassing unhappy too. Life's getting harder for everyone, but if this shit goes on, there'll be backlash. A bloody one. Don't like the abbot coming for my fishing rights, but I will make do. Option 1 of 3 Dante, the restrictions and increased taxes affect you differently than the peasants living off the land. Option 2 of 3, I am not sure if their lives are comparable to ours. Option 3 of 3, they sure seem to complain a lot lately. Option 1 of 3 Dante, the Lucky says stonemasonry's the lifeblood of a town, Andreas. We work, we don't complain. It's not Christian. Player says I suppose. How is your family doing during these troubling times? Lucky says we're fine. Agnes is fine. Brigitta and Martin are fine. Martin's become far more responsible a man after his return. I just wish, ahem. Never mind. Option 1 of 2 you wish. Option 2 of 2 raise eyebrow quizzically. Option 1 of 2 you wish. Lucky says I wish Wolf hadn't died. I mourn the boy. All these years later. I hoped he'd take up my mantle. I wanted to pass on my knowledge and trade. Option 1 of 2 rest in peace, Wolf. Option 2 of 2 I am sorry, Lucky. I really am. Lucky says HMH yet. Perhaps Brigitta will have another. While I live. She seems happy enough with Martin. I'd love to hear the patter of small feet again. A boy to hold a chisel and mallet. A little stonemason, making his grandfather proud. Option 1 of 3 I suppose that's up to Brigitta and Martin. Option 2 of 3 I hope your wish comes true. Option 3 of 3 he could become something other than a stonemason, you know. Option 2 of 3 I hope your wish comes true. Lucky says God willing. Enough idling now. Got things to do. Until later, Andreas. Player says until then. Lucky. Lucky. Central Town. Steinauer House. Church and Druckers. Steinauer House. Northtown. Northtown. Central Town. Central Town. Stahl's House. Stahl's House. Northtown. 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 Stahl's House. Eisenkopf House. Tassing is lucky to have so much woundwort naturally growing. I had to buy it back in Nuremberg. Eisenkopf House. Eisenkopf House. Northtown. 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 Eisenkopf House. Stahl's House. The rat house construction is going smoothly. Central Town. Northtown. Steinauer House. Church and Druckers. Central Town. Town Commons. Zimmerman House. Zimmerman House. Town Commons. Town Commons. Zimmerman House. Yuan Bauer Farm, Brigitta. Gertner entries. Central Town. Entries says Andreas. You're back in Tassing? Option 1 of 2 just for a few days. I wanted to pay my respects to Brother Viera. Option 2 of 2 I am just passing through on my way back to Nuremberg. Option 1 of 2 entry says oh, yes. Brother Viera. What a talent with color. I'm sorry, Andreas. He was a sweet old man. I talk to him sometimes on my breaks up at the Abbey. Player says I'm surprised Prior Ferenc didn't give you an earful. Entry says well, he did before the unpleasantness. I'm sure you know it shook up things at the Abbey for a while. Option 1 of 2 ID imagine. Option 2 of 2 brother guy made it clear I wasn't welcome at Thiersaw when I arrived, so yes. Option 1 of 2 ID imagine. Entry says awful business, that was. Anyway. Matthew's Prior now. Still strict, but a bit quieter about it. Option 1 of 2 Matthew has always struck me as quite pious. Option 2 of 2 so, maybe it's a change for the best. Entry says who's to say? We don't have to live by the rule. Then again, we all have to live under Father Gernot's rule, which is probably worse. Option 1 of 2. Are you in with the peasants? Entries. Option 2 of 2. I don't think the abbot's all that bad. Option 1 of 2. Entry says well, of course. Gernot has been running them into the ground. On top of that, we can't even use the forest anymore. Any of us used to be able to go fishing in there. Not anymore. Option 1 of 2. How far are you going to take this? Option 2 of 2. I hope things don't get bloody. Option 1 of 2. Option 2 of 2. I hope things don't get bloody. Entry says bloody. No one wants that, Andreas. But we're not going to get anywhere by keeping quiet. Option 1 of 3. You have a good advocate in Otto. Option 2 of 3. I hope it goes well for you. Entry says pray for us, will you? We could use St. Moritz's help right now. Say, Andreas, how's the married life been treating you? After you left here and returned to Nuremberg, I take it you were married. Option 1 of 2. I was. Sabina, she was waiting for me. Option 2 of 2. I was. Marriage is a legal requirement for becoming a recognized master craftsman. Option 1 of 2. I was. Sabina, she was waiting for me. Entry says I hope the married life has treated you well. I still have not found anyone. I fear it's never going to happen. Option 1 of 2. Really? Not a single person has caught your eye. Option 2 of 2. Honestly, don't even bother. Marriage is not worth it. Option 1 of 2. Really? Entry says well, when I was in Innsbruck a few years ago, I saw a real pretty girl at the market, selling painted pots. I think about her sometimes. Maybe more than is Christian. Option 1 of 2. Hold on. You need to go back to Innsbruck and find that pretty girl. Option 2 of 2. I can tell you now, Entries, it's not worth the effort. Don't let the pretty facade fool you. Option 1 of 2. Hold on. Entry says W. What? Really? Option 1 of 3. You're older than me and you're not married. Go find her. It's how it should be. Option 2 of 3. Life is too short to spend dreaming about the loves you could have had. Trust me. Entry says you seem to feel strongly about this, Andreas. But it sounds foolish. Juvenile, you might say. Option 1 of 4. Maybe. But it feels right. Option 2 of 4. Don't overthink it. Just take my advice. Option 3 of 4. I may not have found true love, but that doesn't mean you can't. Option 4 of 4. You know what? You're absolutely right. Forget I said anything. Entry says alright. Well, time to get back to work. The hammer won't swing itself. Player says until later. Entries. Gertner Farm. Brigitta says hello, Andreas. Johan Bauer Farm. Johan Bauer Farm. Town Commons. Johan Bauer House. Veronica, Martin Bauer and Widow Kemperin. Veronica says hello, Andreas. Good to see you back in town. Player says hello, Veronica. How have you been? Veronica says oh, you know, cold every which way. Mom's been a cow about what I'll give her grandchildren. As if I'm not doing enough work already? Option 1 of 3. It's a good idea to set yourselves up for the future, Veronica. Option 2 of 3. Are you two having trouble? Option 3 of 3. You shouldn't rush something as important as children. Option 1 of 3. It's a good idea to set yourselves up for the future, Veronica. Veronica says Christ, Andreas, not you, too. I'm sick of everyone telling me how to live my life. I'll have kids when I'm good and ready, thanks. Anyway, I should get back to work. We're all preparing for the festival. Player says I'll leave you to it. Until later, Veronica. Veronica says see you, Andreas. Veronica. Johan Bauer House. Town Commons, Gertner Farm. Town Commons. Johan Bauer House. Johan Bauer House. Johan Bauer House. Veronica, Martin Bauer and Widow Kemperin. Johan Bauer Farm. Johan Bauer Farm. Martin Bauer and Veronica. Johan Bauer House. Town Commons. Gertner Farm. Johan Bauer Farm. Peter, Gertner House. Gertner Farm. Gertner House. Peter says hello, Andreas. Peter, Gertner House. Big Jurg. Big Jurg. Big Jurg says hello, Andreas. Player says hello again, Jurg. Big Jurg says sorry about dinner the other night. Dad, got a little heated. Option 1 of 3 he's just trying to keep his dignity. I understand. Option 2 of 3 Casper didn't mean to insult your family. Option 3 of 3 Peter's a stubborn old man. Option 1 of 3 Big Yerg says thanks, Andreas. Dad's always been able to provide for us, but now. Well, things are different now. But that's why Otto's making his speeches and Claus is printing the 12 articles. Change is coming to Tassing, Andreas. Option 1 of 3 May the winds of fortune blow your way, Yerg. Option 2 of 3 Do you really think you can make a difference? Option 3 of 3 I hope you're right, for your sake. Option 2 of 3 Do you really think you can make a difference? Big Yerg says Otto seems to think so. And with the townsfolk on our side, the abbot can't stop us. Just wait. You'll see, Andreas. Player says until later, Yerg. Big Yerg. Town Commons. Big Yerg, Gertner, Peter. Gertner House. Gertner House. Gertner Farm. Ursula. Bill Peter. Ursula. Ursula says hello. Player says hello, Ursula. Do you remember me? Ursula says no. Should I? Option 1 of 4 It's me, Andreas. I've been a friend of your family for ages. Option 2 of 4 I suppose you wouldn't recognize me. I'm not the poor artist your parents sported. Option 3 of 4 No, you were very young when I was last in Tassing. Option 4 of 4 You used to poke me in the foot with a stick to wake me up. Option 1 of 4 It's me, Andreas. I've been a friend of your family for ages. Player says I'm practically your uncle. Ursula says oh, the artist, right? I kind of remember. Cough cough. I think you told me a story once. Mom and Dad don't talk about you that much. Option 1 of 3 Oh. Option 2 of 3 Remain silent. Option 3 of 3 I am sure they didn't want to overwhelm you. Ursula says they said you went away to make art all over the world when I was little. What was that like? Player says well, while I was in London, I learned a new portrait technique. Ursula says no, not about the art, Andreas. About your travels. Option 1 of 2 all right. Option 2 of 2. Option 1 of 2 all right. Option 1 of 2 London has a big bridge going over its river, but the bridge is so big there are buildings on it. Option 2 of 2 Have you ever seen a hound, without a head? Option 1 of 2 Ursula says what, really? It doesn't sink? Player says it's very sturdy. I walked across it myself. Ursula says that sounds like the miracles Father Thomas talks about, like the Red Sea splitting. Option 1 of 3 I suppose it is. Option 2 of 3 It's not a miracle, Ursula. People designed and built it by hand. Option 3 of 3 Are you satisfied now? Option 1 of 3 I suppose it is. Ursula says cough. Andreas, can I ask you something? Player says of course. Ursula says do you know the stories about Perchta and the Wild Hunt? Player says a little. I didn't learn about them until I lived here. Why? Ursula says are they bad? Cough cough. Player says bad how? Ursula says well my grandpa tells me things about Perchta and spirits and charms. And the old woman, Odilia, she talks about them, too. And says she told me they're part of the old ways or something. Player says so, why do you think they're bad? Ursula says well, my dad says that I shouldn't listen to any of it. He said it's nonsense and that Father Thomas would be mad. He said he only tolerates it with old people because they're too stuck in their ways. I don't want to get in trouble, but Grandpa says if I don't learn the old ways, they'll just be forgotten. Option 1 of 2. Option 2 of 2 Why are you asking me? Ursula says I'm afraid if I ask someone else they'll tell my dad, or worse, Father Thomas. So, are they bad? Cough cough. Option 1 of 2 No. They're not bad. You should learn what you can while you can. Option 2 of 2 They're not bad but those stories could get you in trouble so. Player says maybe you shouldn't learn about the old ways. Ursula says really? Player says well, they're just stories, of course, but. Ursula says. Cough. I'm sorry. Forget I said anything. Player says until later. Ursula says hello, Andreas. Gertner Farm, Clara. Clara says hello, Andreas. Gertner Farm. Ursula. Bill Peter says God bless you. Ursula. Gertner Farm. Gertner House, Big Yerg. Town Commons. Gertner Farm. Brigita. Yuan Bauer Farm. Zimmerman House. Church and Druckers. Town Commons. Central Town. Town Commons. Central Town. Drucker House. Martin Bauer Mill. Martin Bauer and Widow Kemperin. Mill. Church and Druckers. Outer Farms. Church and Druck Muller House. Roman Ruins, Meadow. Roman Ruins. Muller House, Church and Outer Farms. Mill. Anton. Anton says hello, Master Mailer, Mill. Outer Farms, Church and Druckers, Muller House. Muller House. Mill. Else. Else says good evening, Master Mailer. Player says Mistress Mullerin, you're not taking part of the festivities. Else says if only I could. I like seeing the community come together, especially in these times of strife. It would be nice to have pleasant eve at the bonfire, with the dancing and... My husband thinks it is a tradition for fools and miscreants. Option 1 of 2 What about your son, is he going? Option 2 of 2 You could just go on your own, you know. Option 1 of 2 What about Else says I don't think so. He has not shown much interest in it. Lenhart has forbidden it anyway. Paul is a sweet soul, he does as he's told. Option 1 of 2 Similar to yourself, always doing what you're told? Player says are you not your own person, Mistress Mullerin? Else says Master Mailer, you, forget yourself. I have responsibilities. I can't just do anything I want. Player says that's not what I mean. You can still make choices without ignoring your responsibilities. Else says but... I cannot. There is too much to do. Lenhart wouldn't allow it? No. I cannot. He would think of this like he thinks of the peasants. Even on a holy night such as this, he sees what peasants engage in as lawlessness, a carnival of filthy vices. Something he is familiar with. Player says what do you mean? Else says pay me no mind, Andreas. I misspoke. Don't tell Lenhart I said anything. Player says he's not at home tonight, is he? Else says no, he went out some time ago. To keep an eye on the peasants, he said, to make sure they don't get out of line. Especially with Otto urging against the authority of the abbot, he said it stinks of trouble. He may be patrolling the forests or... I don't really. Option 1 of 3 Perhaps it will deter any serious offenses. Option 2 of 3 I am not sure he should be taking the law in his own hands. Option 3 of 3 Then I'll repeat myself, if he is allowed to make such choices, then so are you. Option 1 of 3 Else says or cause them. I am sorry, I must return to my work, and offer prayers to the Forerunner in silence, as usual. Player says I bid you well, then. Else. Mill. Paul. Headstog. Paul said Mill. Muller House. Roman Ruins, Meadow. Mill. Hetchlaw. Mill. Golden Hand Inn, Church and Druckers. Golden Hand Inn. Player says Brother Wojcislav uses thyme in almost all of the abbey's cooking. Maybe because it grows so easily here. Mill. Hetchlaw. Forest. Lower Abbey. Upper Abbey. Meadow. Upper Abbey. Upper Abbey. Lower Abbey. Church. Lower Abbey. Guy. Shrine. Convent Garden. Shrine. Guy says Andreas. Shrine. Convent Garden. Upper Abbey. Convent Aquarium. Het Mosvanger. Journal. Atmosfanger. Convent Upper Abbey. Prior's house. Player says feverfew. It always smells so fresh. Sister Gertrude is wise to have some in the garden. Prior Upper Abbey. Feverfew. It always smells. Sister Gertrude is wise to have some in the garden. Prior's house. Convent garden. Convent garden. Illuminata. Illuminata says God bless you, Andreas. Convent garden. Prior's house. Upper Abbey. Convent Loquarium. Convent Loquarium. Convent garden. Convent garden. Zidna. Zidna says greetings, Master Mailer. Convent garden. Convent Loquarium. Atmosfanger. Convent Upper Abbey. Convent garden. Shrine. Lower Abbey. Church. Church. Lower Abbey. Shrine. Shrine. Lower Abbey. Church. Upper Abbey. Monastery Loquarium. Cloister, crypt, tower. Dormitory, Old Bailey, sacristy. Old Bailey, dormitory. Church. Old Bailey. Church. Cloister. Church. Dormitory. Tower, crypt. Church. 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 Crypt. Cloister. Monastery Upper Abbey. Monastery Loquarium. Church. Cloister. Church. Church. Monastery Loquarium. Cloister, crypt, tower. Church. Church. Tower. Dormitory. Old Bailey. Sacristy. Old Bailey. Church. Dormitory. Church. Scriptorium. Cemetery. Scriptorium. Prior's house. Old Bailey. Old Bailey. Old Bailey. Prior's house. Scriptorium. Cemetery. Old Bailey. Animal pens. Cemetery. Abattoir. Abattoir. Cemetery. Large garden. Animal pens. Kitchen and cellar. Refectory. Cloister. Chapter house. Cloister. Refectory. Kitchen. Animal pens. Kitchen and cellar. Refectory. Cloister. Chapter house. Large garden. Cloister. Chapter house. Monastery aquarium. Large garden. Courtyard and lavatorium, refectory. Church, dormitory, kitchen and cemetery. Kitchen and dormitory, church. Refectory. Refectory. Cloister, Lucas. Kitchen and cellar, Edok, Math, Wojcislaw, Ruger. Florian. Large garden. Refectory. Large garden. Florian, Ruger. Ruger says Andreas. Oh, it's wonderful to see you again. How have they? Player says I've actually been in London recently. Option 1 of 3 Nuremberg is wonderful, though. Option 2 of 3 Nuremberg is the same as it always is. Option 3 of 3 I am not looking forward to going back to Nuremberg. Option 2 of 3 Nuremberg. Ruger says well, it's good to see you, in any case. Forgive me for asking, but how did you find the music in London? Player says lovely. King Henry is an avid supporter of musicians and plays a number of instruments himself. Ruger says oh. Interesting. I knew he was a defender of the church, but I did not realize he was a musician as well. I love our music, of course, but I am interested in what is being created across Christendom. I suppose you came to pay your respects to Brother Piero. I'm so sorry, Andreas. He was a wonderful man and a faithful servant of Christ. Option 1 of 2 that he was. Option 2 of 2 he was my friend and teacher. Option 1 of 2 that he was. Ruger says well, despite the occasion, it is good to see you again. God bless you, Andreas. Ruger. Florian. Florian says Andreas Mailer. How wonderful to see you. Have you been well? Option 1 of 2 well enough, yes. Option 2 of 2 not lately. Option 1 of 2 well enough, yes. Florian says good. You look healthy. What brings you back here? Option 1 of 2 I wanted to pay my respects to Brother Piero. Option 2 of 2 I don't want to return to Nuremberg just yet. Option 1 of 2 I want. Florian says of course. I'm sorry, Andreas. I know it's a small consolation, but he lived a long life with little pain. He died quite suddenly during Lauds. He was well loved by everyone here, even those who might pretend otherwise. I'm sure he appreciates the gesture. As for your visit, I cannot speak with the abbot's authority, but you are always welcome company. Player says how is your Italian coming along? Florian says non troppo male. It's not too bad. I've been reading every Italian medical text Klaus Drucker can get his hands on. Player says really? How many is that? Florian says oh, I haven't counted, but many. Leonisino's text on the French disease, which might have been helpful for the Baron all those years ago. The Fasciculus Medicini, a new printing from Venice. Wonderful woodcuts. Oh. The Flower of Medicine from Salerno. Did you know they've translated it into Hebrew? Occitan. Imagine that. Imagine a peasant in the fields of Provence reading the medical wisdom of Salerno. Option 1 of 3 imagine a Polish mercenary doing it. Option 2 of 3 it's truly remarkable. Option 3 of 3 what use would a peasant have for the medical wisdom of Salerno? Option 1 of 3 imagine a Polish mercenary doing it. Option 2 of 3 it's truly remarkable. Florian says what a wonder these books are. I got carried away. Hee. Anyway, it's good to see you, Andreas. Until later. Player says until then. Florian. Large garden. Florian, Ruger. Bookbird. Wojcislaw, Ruger. Ruger says God bless you, Andreas. Player says when the brothers eat their meals, this is where the lector reads to them. When the brothers eat their meals, this is where when the brothers eat their meals, this is where Wojcislaw says God bless you, Andreas. Bookbird. Math. Edok. Edok says hello. Who is this? Player says it's Andreas, Brother Edok. Andreas Mailer. Edok says oh. Andreas. The fine young artist from Nuremberg. Option 1 of 2 not quite so young anymore, brother. Option 2 of 2 you flatter me. Option 1 of 2 not quite so young anymore, brother. Edok says no, you are still young. When you were last here, I thought I was old. I was wrong. Now I feel the true measure of years on these bones. Like the waves of the wide sea on the cliffs of Porthcragen, time has worn me down. But enough of that. How have you been, Andreas? Option 1 of 3 God has blessed me with good fortune. Option 2 of 3 I have been well, thank you. Edoc says I am glad to hear it. Option 1 of 2 you seem more at ease now than when I was last here. Option 2 of 2 thank you. Option 1 of 2 Edoc says do I? It may be so. I may have worked in the scriptorium beyond the limits of this body. It pained my joints and strained my brotherly love for God. The scriptorium took my sight and the use of my hands, but when it closed, it also took the pain from my heart. The abbot is content to let me serve the Lord through prayer and contemplation. And so it also contents me. I'm sorry, Andreas, but I must rest now. It is good to hear your voice at Giersaw again. God bless you. Option 1 of 2 before I go, could I ask you something about a book I found in the library? Edoc says oh. I'm afraid I may not be of much help. I can barely read anymore. Player says I can describe it to you. It's a book of Origen's homilies, written in a fine book hand. Edoc says and it is cinched around the edges. Player says yes. You know it? Do you know where it came from, who wrote it? Edoc says Andreas, forget this book. Option 1 of 2 what? Why? Option 2 of 2 say nothing. Option 1 of 2 what? Why? Edoc says it came from a place of fire in a terrible darkness. Player says what does that mean? Edoc says this cover, these leaves, they bear the marks of a great evil that was done. A soul can also bear such marks, carry them for a lifetime. Player says whose soul? The person who wrote the book. Edoc says there is a presence that watches over this place, Andreas. A presence that wishes for things to remain as they are. Option 1 of 3 years ago, Smokey Calder told me a story about a ghost in the Roman ruins. Option 2 of 3 Sister Marguerite told me that before the Baron was murdered, she smelled the devil's presence at Giersaw. Option 3 of 3 a presence. What do you mean? Edoc says. I cannot say any more, Andreas. I'm sorry. Option 1 of 2 I understand. Option 2 of 2 what? Really? You can't tell me any more? Edoc says I dare not, for your own good. God protect you. Player says you as well, brother. Edoc. Matthew says God bless you, Andreas, Vokbird, Wojcislav. Vokbird says oh. Master Andreas. It's been so long. Option 1 of 2 7 years. Option 2 of 2 it's good to see you, brother Vokbird. How are you? Vokbird says I am well. I'm a monk now. Brother Lucas, too. I still do the same work, but now I have the same robes as the other brothers. Option 1 of 2 has the abbot been treating you well? Option 2 of 2 are you happy here, brother? Vokbird says I am. The brothers are my family. I serve the Lord with my labor and I am thankful to have a place here. Player says that's good to hear. I'll leave you to your work, brother. Vokbird says God bless you, Master Andreas. Vokbird. Matthew Edoc. Kitchen and Lucas. Lucas says God bless you, Master Mailer. Player says God bless you, brother Lucas. How have you been? Still working in the kitchen? Lucas says yes, I'm still assisting brother Wojcislav. I've been making more complex dinners recently for Father Gernot. The rest of the brothers eat simpler fare, but the abbot has the privilege of foods from around the world. Option 1 of 2 why does the abbot need such fancy foods? Option 2 of 2 tell me about what you've been cooking. Option 1 of 2 why does the Lucas says well, he's the abbot. Brother Wojcislav says the abbot always gets the best. He said Father Matthias was odd because he ate the same food as the rest of the brothers. I don't mind it, though. I've been learning a lot of new ways to cook recently. Player says oh, what are you cooking now? Lucas says oh. Brother Wojcislav sent me to collect something for him, but I can't remember what it was. Option 1 of 2 something from the cellar, perhaps. Option 2 of 2 I don't have time to help you right now. Option 1 of 2 something from the cellar, perhaps. Lucas says probably. There's so much in there, though. Maybe if I bring back a few onions, he'll be happy. We always need more onions. Player says I'll leave you to it, then. Lucas. Lucas says God bless you, Master Mailer. Kitchen and cellar. Lucas, cloister. Lucas, kitchen and cellar. Kitchen and cellar. Refectory. Cloister. Refectory. Cellar. Large garden. Large garden. Cellar. Cellar. Kitchen and cellar. Kitchen and cellar. Kitchen and cellar. Cellar. Refectory. Cloister. Kitchen and cellar. Dormitory, church, refectory. Courtyard and large garden. Modest chapter house, infirmary, upper abbey. Infirmary, chapter house. Cloister. Chapter house. Infirmary. Infirmary, chapter house, monastery, aquarium, large garden, courtyard and lavatorium, refectory, church, dormitory, kitchen and cemetery. Kitchen and dormitory, church, refectory. Courtyard and lavatorium. Courtyard and lavatorium. Cloister. 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 Courtyard and lavatorium. Refectory. Church, dormitory, kitchen and cemetery. Kitchen and dormitory, church, refectory. Courtyard and large garden. Modest chapter house, infirmary, upper abbey. Chapter house, monastery, aquarium. Modest chapter house, infirmary, upper abbey. Cloister. Church, lower abbey, got, shrine, convent garden. Journal.
Recognizing result document, Silicon, Hermit, St. John S. Even, 551I, NCJ Asylum, Tuid, Nye, Geronimo Bludov, Libris, V. Knox Tower, Otto speech was attended by almost everyone in passing. He spoke of the many problems both the townsfolk and peasants had with the abbot's regulations. Most people agreed with him, but Leonard Mueller and Hannah Burgess were worried about the Duke's intervention. He also hinted at receiving the sign of God's favor that he's planning to reveal on St. John's Day. I ran into Clara and Eva in the Commons. Clara invited us to spend time with the family over. I ran into Clara at John's Day. Favor that he's planning to reveal on St. John's Day. I ran into Clara and Eva in the Commons. Clara invited us to spend time with the family over. Supper, I should head to the farm when I'm group. Supper, I should head to the farm when I'm invited us to spend time with the family over. Supper, I should head to the farm when I'm group. 0 section. Different dollar tranderadiat. NLF Casa. Even George Bush have fallen on hard times. The Euro tea. Supper was neater and the conversation was dire. Peter is angrier than even about the abbot's rule over passing. An unhappy ending to our first day here. It is time for us to retire for the evening. Compline. As Casper and one passed by the town church. We heard Sister, may we have another strange vision. She spoke of sin of Solland. Compline. It is an unsettling omen. Considering what happened the last time one witnessed one of her visions. Oh, close. 0. Pentiment.
Convent garden. Shrine. Lower abbey. Meadow. Lower abbey. Forest. Petchlaw, mill. Golden Hand Inn, church and druggers. Meadow. Church and druggers. Golden Hand Inn. Meadow. Killian. Killian says good day, Master Mailer. Nico. Nico says hello, Andreas. Samuel. Samuel says hello, Andreas. Samuel. Nico. Killian. Killian. Golden Hand guest room. Golden Hand guest room. Golden Hand Inn. Go to bed. Player says the room is sparse compared to what Golden Hand Inn. Go to bed. I'm not tired yet. Journal.
Recognizing result RWN RMCCP Circle Maps. Tiddle. Ugnan. Otto speech was Dia. Cliff. Tyan. NT. Till. Everyone in passing. He spoke of the many problems both the townsfolk and peasants had with the abbot's regulations. Most people agreed with him, but Leonard Mueller and Hannah Berger were worried about the Duke's intervention. He also hinted at receiving the sign of God's favor that he's planning to reveal on St. John's Day. 13. I ran into Clara and Eva in the Commons. Clara invited us to spend time with the family over. Supper, I should head to the farm when I'm Nuberty Clue. Supper, I should head to the farm when I'm Pentiment.
Go to bed. Golden Hand Inn. Golden Hand Guest Room. Killian. Meadow. Golden Hand Inn. Church and Druggers. Meadow. Forest. Smokey's Home. Forest. Smokey's Home. Forest. Smokey's Home. Forest. Smokey's Home. Brother Wojciech uses time in almost all of the Abbey's cooking. Maybe because it grows so easily here. Church and Druggers. Smokey's Home. With Father Gernot's new restrictions, the townsfolk can't even gather sticks without a fee. With Father Gernot's new restrictions, the townsfolk Meadow. Shrine of Waterfall. Shrine of Saint Sasha. Meadow. Smokey's Home. Church and Druggers. Forest. Meadow. Meadow. Church and Druggers. Golden Hand Inn. Mill, Petchlaw. Forest. Lower Abbey. Lower Abbey. Guest House. Abbot House. Lower Abbey. Gernot. Large Garden. Gernot. Lower Abbey. Gernot. Gernot says God bless you, Andreas. I'm glad to see you received my invitation. Are you ready to eat? Player says yes. Gernot says good. Gernot says, Andreas. Thank you for coming to dinner. Option 1 of 2 I will admit, I was surprised to receive your invitation, Father, but I'm pleased to come. Option 2 of 2 I thought you didn't ever want to see me at Kiersau again, Father. What changed? Gernot says yes, well, the Lord calls us to forgiveness, even when that might be difficult. I think it's high time we reconciled, Master Mailer. Please sit, and we will pray together. Bless us, O Lord, and these, your gifts, which we are about to receive from your bounty. Lord, direct each of us here toward your wisdom, prudence, and guidance in our future actions. Through Christ, our Lord, Amen. Player says, Amen. Gernot says Brother Wojciech was indeed prompt in delivering my message. I'm surprised you didn't drop by at all. You have done quite well for yourself, after all. It is good to see that your time at Kiersau was not squandered. You even look the part of a famous artist now. What have you been doing in recent years after leaving such a mess in Tassing? Option 1 of 4 the city council did approve me as a master artist in Nuremberg, you'll be pleased to hear. Option 2 of 4 I have a commission of Mary and Christ waiting for me in Nuremberg, but my patron wants to keep adding more of his associates in. Option 3 of 4 I spent most of my time doing commissions for various lords in London. Option 4 of 4 what do you care about my successes, Father? Option 1 of 4 the city council did approve me at Gernot says impressive indeed. You even managed to find yourself an apprentice, I hear. Player says, thank you, Father. I do wonder why your invitation wasn't extended to Casper as well. Gernot says I wanted the privacy to talk about things that are ill-suited to a boy of his age. In truth, I had hoped to discuss the rising tensions between the Abbey and townspeople. I'd like to clarify the situation for you, Andreas. Option 1 of 3 please, Abbot, I'm all ears. Option 2 of 3 clarify, what, exactly? Option 3 of 3 of course. Just like you clarified that Piero was guilty all those years ago. Option 2 of 3 clarify, what, exactly? Gernot says I simply want to ensure you understand the circumstances objectively. From all angles. I believe you've only heard from one side of the issue, Andreas. Otto's little speeches about taxes don't account for the entire situation. Player says why demand such high taxes then, Father? Select food item to eat. Plum pudding. Plum pudding. Lekichin. Gernot says with the scriptorium closure, the taxes are necessary to make up for the lost income. Option 1 of 5 surely there's another option. Do you really need to raise taxes that much? Option 2 of 5, why not ask the bishop for help? Option 3 of 5, just because you decided to close the scriptorium doesn't mean the townsfolk should suffer. Option 4 of 5, other abbeys have been able to adapt and make revenue. Surely you don't need that much tax to make up the lost revenue. Option 5 of 5, oh, that's unfortunate. Option 1 of 5, surely. Option 2 of 5, why not ask the bishop for help? Gernot says, ask the bishop. I have the authority to keep the abbey running, so I will in the way I see fit. I will not shame the abbey that way. Brother Guy has gone over the expenses himself. Raising taxes is the best way to cover these costs. Player says, but what about prohibiting the peasants from using the forest? That's a new restriction. Select food item to eat. Plum pudding. Gernot says the forest belongs to the abbey and the peasants have no right to use it. Legally, it's theft. Option 1 of 3, it doesn't harm the abbey to let the townsfolk pick up sticks. Option 2 of 3, why bring the issue up with me, then? You need to talk to the townsfolk, not me. I don't have a stake in this. Option 1 of 3, it doesn't harm the abbey to let the townsfolk. Option 3 of 3, you being a pedantic ass. Option 1 of 3, Gernot says such theft deprives the abbey of its natural resources. Since the abbey does not produce anything else, it must be able to sustain itself somehow, especially under such financial stress. Player says, have you no pity for anyone in Tassing? Gernot says, I am more upset to hear the townsfolk have no pity for us. I hear they will continue their disobedience by collecting herbs on St. John's Eve. The whole town knows I've forbidden it. The matter is grave, and I will excommunicate anyone who defies my order. Option 1 of 4, you would condemn the town over something so petty? Option 2 of 4, that certainly creates an ultimatum. Option 3 of 4, that's insane. Option 4 of 4, remain silent. Select food item to eat. Pheasant. 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 Gernot says remaining impartial will be impossible as long as you're in town. Support me in ending this foolish rebellion. You have a reputation in town, Andreas. You're a successful man, and the townsfolk believe they are like you. I'd like you to convince the other townsfolk, the printer, for example, that this uprising is not in their best interests. The rest of the town will follow, and the peasants will have no chance to resist. We can end this peacefully. Option 1 of 5, I don't want the town to come to harm. It is a precarious situation, but I understand your point of view, father. Option 2 of 5, the peasants have genuine grievances. Why not talk with them and negotiate? Option 3 of 5, I want no part in this either way. I don't have a stake in this and I don't want to make enemies. Gernot says as long as you are in Tassing, you will be involved, Andreas. I suggest you position yourself on the side of resolution. Well, I was hoping a more impartial voice could help resolve the situation. Please, take more time to think about it. I apologize, we must conclude for now. Gernot says I must excuse myself. I am expected to lead a service at Compline tonight. Think on what we've discussed, Andreas. I trust you can find your way out. Player says I will, Father Abbot. Good night. Journal.
Recognizing result document. Pentiment.
Journal.
Recognizing result document to Tilly. Scribble feels strange the attaching. I haven't talked to anyone herein. Years I should stop by Claus's house to see how he's been. Sir, Claus wasn't happy to see me. I probably should have written back to him when he contacted me about Marie and Birth. Nothing to be done about it now. He's been printing leaflets for Otto to promote the peasants' demands. He said that I should head to the commons to hear Otto give a speech to the town. Proof. LP. Agredo dollar Dianu. People glossary. One ran into Brother Guy outside of the town church. He extended an invitation from the abbot to buy books from the library. Mother. Illuminado for me there in the morning. One ran into Otto Zimmerman and Martin. Power having a discussion in the meadow. Martin returned from his adventures as a tangent when the title metacommon. Commons later. I led there after one talk to Claus. Pentiment.
Lower Abbey. Abbot House. Guest House. Guest House. Meadow. Lower Abbey. Forest. Petschlaw, Mill. Golden Hand Inn, Church and Druckers. Golden Hand Inn. Meadow. Player says Casper isn't here. Maybe he wandered into town to see the bonfire. I should go look for him. Journal.
Recognizing Cinnamon. Lily. Page. Jerome Blue. Max. Libris. Pay and respects. It feels strange being back in Pierce. Back in. Passing. I haven't talked to anyone here in years. I should tease in. Sir, Claus wasn't happy to see me. I promised for the written contact to be done about it now. If one ran into brother guy outside of the church, he extended Abbott to buy books from the library luminado for me morning. One ran into Otto Zimmerman and Martin. Bauer having the Martin with her tangent with the meta comments later. I led there at Claus. Tab. R zoom. R zoom. R zoom. Pentiment.
Maps. Journal. Samuel. Samuel says hello, Andreas. Meadow. Golden Hand Inn. Church and Druckers. Meadow. Arlt Mill, Martin Bauer and Widow Kemperin, Drucker House. Central Town, Town Commons. Zimmerman Atelier. Carl, Yuan Bauer Farm, Brigita. Gertner Farm. Central Town. Gertner Farm. Brigita. Brigita says what? Martin, look who it is. Good evening, Andreas. Martin says Andreas. You're staying for the festival, I hope. Brigita says of course he's staying. Who would miss this? Especially after you burly boys built such a beautiful bonfire. Martin says a burly boy like me would do anything for you, Doug. Couldn't help myself. Option 1 of 2 Brigita. Martin. You're both feeling very festive, I see. Option 2 of 2 stare at them blankly. Option 1 of 2 Martin says the food, the fires, the dancing. It really is a night to enjoy. Brigita says it's to honor the anniversary of the birth of Blessed John. A vigil for he who prepared the way. Martin says yes, yes, and he'd have liked everyone to have a good mood in their hearts, and good food in their bellies. Brigita says as a hermit who wandered in the desert, living off locusts and wild honey, he probably wouldn't agree. Martin says I'd like to live off some wild honey myself, if you catch my meaning. Option 1 of 2 so, are you going to heed Otto's call and go into the forest? Option 2 of 2 snored. Option 1 of 2 Martin says no. I'm really not looking for trouble. There's enough of that going around. Option 1 of 2 even though you supported him earlier during his speech. Option 2 of 2 and you, Brigita. Not gathering any herbs. Option 1 of 2 even though you supported him earlier during his speech. Martin says he speaks his mind on what's important, but like I've said, I've no personal interest to provoke the abbot. Brigita says we are God-fearing people, Andreas. Option 1 of 3 I am glad you're being sensible. Option 2 of 3 what did you argue about with Otto anyway, when I first saw you in the meadow? Martin says oh, nothing of note. Brigita says Andreas, please, enough of this talk. We're here to celebrate. And Martin and I will dance until our legs begin to waver, isn't that right? Martin says would not miss it for the world. Player says that's delightful. I hope you have a great evening. Brigita says you as well, Andreas. Martin says until later. Brigita. Gertner Farm. Central Town. Gertner Farm. Brigita. Yuan Bauer Farm. Player says this bonfire is much simpler than the one in Nuremberg, but it's pretty all the same. Yuan Carl. Carl says evening, Andreas. Say, how do you like the bonfire? We built it nice this year. Big and sturdy. Option 1 of 2 it's a fine setup, Carl. Excellent work. Option 2 of 2 it's not as impressive as the ones I've seen in Nuremberg. Option 1 of 2 Carl says I know we can't compare to where you come from, but we still give it our all, in celebration of the light who prepared the way for our Lord. Anton, you remember Andreas Mahler, the master artist? Anton says yeah, I've seen him around town. Carl says son, be polite. Anton says ugh. Hello, Master Mailer. How are you? Option 1 of 3 I am well, thank you, young man. Option 2 of 3 fine, I guess. It hasn't been a great time back in Nuremberg. Option 3 of 3 now this is a well-raised kid. Does as he is told. Option 1 of 3 Carl says Anton's a good boy, let me tell you. A bit of a rascal, as you can see, but he's got a good head and a good heart. Likes to hide it, though. Anton says Dad, will you stop? Carl says ha ha ha. Easy to rile you up, just like your mother. Option 1 of 2 How is Helena? Is she not attending the bonfire? Option 2 of 2 So what do you think of the festival, Anton? Option 1 of 2 How is Helena? Is she not attending the bonfire? Carl says she'll join us later. She went with Martha to dip their toes into the stream, and to pick some flowers for the garlands and wreaths. It's important to hold to traditions. Option 1 of 2 You are right. Especially with the times we're having. Option 2 of 2 Wreaths, dipping into the stream. Aren't these more pagan customs? Option 1 of 2 You are right. Carl says besides, maybe Martha and Helena will come across the blossom of a fern out there, haha. Anton says what's so funny about that? Carl says ferns don't flower. That means no power to speak with animals for you, boy. Option 1 of 2 Don't worry, Anton. You can always get a garland with St. John's wort to ward off any demons and evil spirits. Option 2 of 2 I doubt they'd have anything interesting to say anyway. Option 1 of 2 Don't worry. Carl says yeah, got that, Anton. Make sure to keep your eyes open for those spirits walking the earth tonight. Anton says evil spirits and demons. I've never seen any myself. Carl says and you won't have to, if we're careful, my boy. The bonfire will frighten them off, with the help of the Lord. It's why we have feasts and celebrations. Player says speaking of, what do you think of the festival so far, Anton? Anton says it's fine, I guess. I like the fires, when they are lit. The mountains get to twinkle, like the stars. I don't like when people get drunk and rowdy as the night goes on. They get into fights and all. Option 1 of 2 But your dad keeps the trouble away, yes. Option 2 of 2 Anyone in particular? Option 1 of 2 But your dad Anton says yeah. He doesn't like it when those goddamn bastards go too far. Carl says language, boy. God doesn't look kindly on blaspheming. Anton says but those are your words, Dad. Carl says best you don't quote me, quote the scripture instead. It's better for your soul. Player says you listen to your father, Anton. Anton says I will. I do. Jesus. Carl says hey, what did I just say? Don't let your mother catch you with that mouth, haha. Player says well, I'll let you get back to the festivities now. Carl says it was a pleasure. Until later, Andreas. Anton says bye. Carl. Adelia, Zimmerman House. Adelia. Adelia says well. You're that artist, the one who lived with the Goethes. Got mixed up in the wonderful killing of that rat, the Baron. Option 1 of 2 yes. Andreas Mailer. Option 2 of 2 I was just trying to clear my friend's name. Adelia says you think I care. If a flood washed the abbey and all the monks into the river I'd grab the nearest man and dance a weller in joy. Anyway, no time to talk now, fancy man. It's time to call to the fire. Option 1 of 2 Does St. John's Eve mean a lot to you? Option 2 of 2 Call. Option 1 of 2 Does St. Adelia says the Saint's Eve. Right. Hee. ANS, Mama Perchta. News Art Quest Flow per TI. B. News Clamogin TI. Ha 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 ha. Player says all, right. I'm going to go. Adelia says ha ha ha. Enjoy the evening, Andreas. But if you want my advice, stay out of the woods tonight. Ha 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 ha. Adelia. Zimmerman House. Church and Druggers. Zimmerman House. Church and Druggers. Town Commons. Zimmerman, Andreas. Carl, Yuan Bauer Farm, Brigita. Gertner Farm. Central Town. Gertner Farm. Town Commons. Gertner House. Yuan Bauer Farm. Gertner House. Town Commons. Gertner Farm. Brigita. You on Bauer Farm, Carl. Casper. Werner. Bill Peter, Till. Gertner Farm. Central Town. Gertner Farm. Bridgetop. Bridgetop. Till. Gertner Farm. Bridgetop. Till. Till says hello, Master Mailer. Player says evening, Till. Enjoying the festival? Till says very much so. I perhaps feel a tad old for the more active side of the celebrations, but I enjoy the sights and sounds. Did you know the word for the summer solstice leads back to Romans? Option 1 of 2 I thought you didn't read Latin. Option 2 of 2 I may have heard that, yes. Option 1 of 2 I thought you. Option 2 of 2. Till says solstitium, the sun staying still in the sky. Such as it looks like this time of year. A fitting allegory for the great cosmic arc of mankind. Rise and fall. But to make up for that, dancing, leaping, songs. Joy and mirth. Option 1 of 2 people do seem elated, although I don't think the same applies to Abbot or not. Option 2 of 2 but can all this really keep away the decline? Option 1 of 2. Till says Otto's courting danger, I agree. Going against the decrees of the Abbey like so. The festival has always had a rebellious streak of jest and mockery. I don't see it as sacred as some. Option 1 of 3 the church would disagree. We are to honor a major saint. Option 2 of 3 it has to be sacred enough, for the church not to condemn it as heretical. Option 3 of 3 and what are we mocking? Till says the fools of the community, most like. The vices folks get up to. Especially those more important than us peasants. Overall, I think it brings people together. I wish I could read more about all this. Player says well, with the Abbey selling books from their library. Till says I hope I could get some for myself, but it proved to be far too expensive. Claus and his printings have proven to be of more use, and a fair bit cheaper. Option 1 of 2 have you come across any interesting tales? Option 2 of 2 does this mean you've read the 12 articles? Option 1 of 2 have you come across any interesting tales? Till says I have indeed, Master Mailer. 4. I didn't quite understand everything. The text was in Latin. It was by a Roman named Strabo, and it was about geography. That's why I noticed it. Player says I don't believe I've had the chance to read anything by him. Till says it was a fairly complicated read, I must admit. The book was about many kinds of barbarians, which also included the Reti tribe I read about years ago. The people who used to live on this very land before the Romans arrived. He called this place Ratium and described it as a cluster of dog huts, and its people hostile and warlike, only interested in hunting and fighting. There was something about Mundus and his sons, but I couldn't understand a lot of it. In any case, when the Romans came, most of these locals were driven out. But some were captured to work in the fields and the mines. Option 1 of 2 what happened to the locals who were forced out? Option 2 of 2 what were they mining? Option 1 of 2 what happened to the locals who were forced out? Till says no idea. I would imagine that after the Romans were driven off, when their empire started falling apart, maybe the barbarians came back. But were they really the same people, or nomads from elsewhere? Player says I guess we may never know. Thank you for the quick history. I'll let you get back to the festivities. Till says enjoy yourself tonight, Master Mailer. Until later. Till. Bill Peter. Werner. Casper. Adelia, Zimmerman House. Zimmerman, Adelia. Casper. Casper. Adelia. Casper. Werner. Bill Peter, Till. Bridgetop. Till. Bill Peter. Veronica says good evening, Andreas. Nice to see you here. Grandpa, look who it is. Bill Peter says Oh, the artist. You're still around? Player says I thought to stay and enjoy the festivities. Bill Peter says ha. You call this a festival? Ha. You haven't seen nothing yet. Veronica says you're not going to tell the story again, are you? Bill Peter says you kids need to learn it by heart, else Richta will run you down. Option 1 of 2 this is about the wild hunt? Option 2 of 2 Bill Peter, I'm not sure I'm really interested in old tales. Option 1 of 2 this is Bill Peter says yes, it draws near. Ha. Heed my warning. Veronica says Grandpa, you're getting agitated again. It's not good for your health. Bill Peter says nonsense. I can outlive any bastard out there. So, Where was I? Option 1 of 2 the wild hunt. Option 2 of 2 I am guessing you were about to regale me with a tale of option 1 of 2 the wild hunt. Bill Peter says yes. Did you bring your mask? Option 1 of 3 no sorry. Option 2 of 3 I didn't realize I was supposed to bring one. Option 3 of 3 I am not really that interested in partaking in local traditions. Option 1 of 3 no sorry. Bill Peter says pop. Put your life in danger, for all I care. The masks are to protect us as we banish the witches and spirits into Pritch's path. She punishes all humans she finds in the woods on St. John's Eve, since only witches are out in the wilderness. Anyone caught will be turned into animals. No one but a priest can then turn you back. Option 1 of 2 well, I guess I can imagine a worse punishment. Option 2 of 2 oh no, to be brought low, to a mere beastly existence. Option 1 of 2 Bill Peter says you joke, artist, but you won't be laughing when Pritch finds you. Stay indoors tonight. If you want to come outside, stay within the light of St. John's fire. At least Saint Sasha blesses the herbs in the forest this night. And the women will gather the herbs. Regardless of that bastard abbot. Veronica says it's certainly important to stockpile some for the winter. Option 1 of 2 thank you for teaching me more about local traditions. Option 2 of 2 great story. Option 1 of 2 thank you Bill Peter says eh. Cough. Hey. Figured. Figured says Bill Peter says you grab some of those ashes with you after the bonfire has died down. Figured says fine. Player says what are the ashes for? Bill Peter says eh. It's to spread across the garden, ensures a good harvest. Figures you city people don't know shit. Veronica says don't be like that, Grandpa. Now that story time is over, how are you enjoying the evening so far, Andreas? Option 1 of 2 I've spoken to a few other people here. Very enlightening. Option 2 of 2 fine enough, although I'm feeling tired. Option 1 of 2 Veronica says it's the best time to spend time with your friends. Have you heard anything interesting? Bill Peter says pop. Gossip. You two are like that burner in the forest. Smokey, that's the one. Always nosy about other people. Option 1 of 3 I've also been invited to have dinner with the abbot. I guess option 2 of 3 Smokey is a bit inquisitive, but he's a good man. Option 3 of 3 ignore him. Yes, it has been fun to hear what people think about St. John's Eve. Option 2 of 3 Smokey is a bit inquisitive, but he's a good man. Bill Peter says pop. Guess at least he's not a bastard like the abbot. Pop. Veronica says I think we've taken enough of Andrea's time, haven't we? Enjoy the night's celebrations. Until later. Bill Peter says HMPF. Bill Peter. Werner. Werner says Andreas. Balthasar says salutations. You must be that illustrious artist. Balthasar Isenko, pleasure to meet you. But call me Balthas, please. It's much more familiar. Option 1 of 2 Master Andreas Mailer. Pleased to meet you. Option 2 of 2 right. You've been in passing long? Option 1 of 2 Master Werner says yes, you're Mailer, we all know. Let's cut the long-winded pleasantries. Option 1 of 2 could you behave yourself for one conversation? Option 2 of 2 what brings you to Tassing, Balthas? Werner says Balthasar here decided to stay in this godforsaken town for whatever unfathomable reason after his cart broke. Balthasar says it is not unfathomable. I enjoy the calming vistas, the peace, and quiet. Werner says it has been neither lately. Option 1 of 2 you mean with what Otto and the peasants have been saying? Option 2 of 2 and what is it that you do, Balthas? Werner says he is an inventor. Of sorts. Balthasar says I make all manner of mechanical contraptions. Werner says, for all the use it is. Balthasar says the mind of the inventor exists to create, to build, to go one step further. Werner says one step further toward the garbage heap, haha. Option 1 of 2 a very inspiring thought, Balthas. Option 2 of 2 it makes sense you'd also be rude to your friends, Werner. Option 1 of 2 a very Balthasar says why, I thank you, master artist. Speaking of, have you had the chance to look around town tonight? I imagine option 1 of 2 Tassing certainly looks cheerful with the decorations and bonfire. Option 2 of 2 what do you mean? Option 1 of 2 Tassing certainly look Balthasar says indeed. Look at their peasant ingenuity. Consider the bonfire itself. It is built to allow the air and the heat to flow through it at great speed. And how it roars. Option 1 of 2 it's a clever piece of construction. But Otto's a clever man. Option 2 of 2 yes, and Werner says exactly. Gaze upon their skill at stacking logs upon logs, almost worthy of a university degree. Balthasar says these people have natural traditions, they've managed to figure out many clever things without even the most cursory education. It is knowledge that hails from preceding generations. Lived experience passed along the chain of time. Not quite the knowledge of a rigorously educated mind, perhaps, but nonetheless useful. Option 1 of 2, you don't need a university education to be smart. Werner says, of course you would say that. Neither of you know these people like I do. God has assigned them their place in the order of the world for good reason. Balthasar says there is some merit in learning from the peasants. Even you, Werner, given their understanding of herbal remedies. Werner says their traditions are profane. Consider the Eve of St. John, tainted by their pagan rituals. It's an affront to Christ. St. Pelagius warned against precisely this nearly 1,000 years ago. Option 1 of 2, where did this newfound piety come from? Werner says, don't pretend to know anything about me. I've been on the pilgrimage to Aachen. I have visited the Morentrain and stood in the presence of those holy relics. To be in the presence of St. John the Baptist's beheading cloth was an experience I will never forget. Option 1 of 3, I've seen the reliquary several times on my visits to Antwerp. Option 2 of 3, I am glad you've had an experience. Your family must be proud. Option 3 of 3, I am familiar, thank you. Option 2 of 3, Werner says they are. Balthasar says grand. Now, I think it is time we return to the festival. We're here to celebrate. Player says I'll let you continue with your evening, then. Good night. Balthasar says a very good night. Oh, and do come by my workshop, Master Mailer. I would love to exchange ideas. Option 1 of 2, it would be my pleasure. Option 2 of 2, if I can find the time. Option 1 of 2, it would be my pleasure. Balthasar says splendid. Until then. Werner says Mailer. Werner. Casper. Casper. Casper says Master Andreas, look at how big the bonfire is. The decorations are so fancy. Option 1 of 2, the St. John's Eve festival is a big event for Tassing. I missed option 2 of 2, the festivals in Nuremberg are much bigger. Tassing. Option 1 of 2, the St. John's Eve festival is a big event for Tassing. I missed it last time I was here. Haven't you ever been to a festival like this, Casper? Casper says no, I've never seen anything like this. Can I stay at the bonfire and see the costumes and watch them collect herbs, Master Mailer? Please. Option 1 of 2, alright, but follow along and don't get in their way. I'm too tired for the festival. I think I'll just turn in for the night. Option 2 of 2, no, Casper. It's late, and I don't want to risk the abbot's anger. Let's. Option 1 of 2, alright, but Casper says yes. I promise I won't make trouble. I'll see you tomorrow, Master. Casper. Atelier, Zimmerman House. Church and Druckers. Town Commons. Central Town. Drucker House. Martin Bauer, Mill, Our Lady of the Labyrinth. Meadow. Forest. Meadow. Church and Druckers. Golden Hand Inn. Player says Brother Wojcislav uses thyme in almost all of the abbey's cooking. Maybe because it grows so easily here. Golden Hand Inn. Meadow. Golden Hand Guest Room. Golden Hand Inn. Go to bed, it's getting late, I should get some rest. Option 1 of 2, go to sleep.